Hello everyone. Today we're going to continue our series on Cisco routers. So today we're going to learn about routing modes and how you actually use the modes on a router and a switch. So let's get started. So the first thing we're going to do here is we're going to go to networking devices. We're going to click on routers. We're going to take a 1941 router, put it on your screen. We're going to go to switch. We're going to take a 2950 switch. We're going to put it on your screen. Okay. So now we're going to go to host, grab a PC, put it on your screen. Grab another PC, put it on your screen. So the important thing here is we're using an end device to connect to it. So when you use a console cable, you have to be local, all right? So there's in-band and out-of-band connections, which we'll talk about later on. So first thing you want to do, click on the connection, all right? This is the connection wizard. We're going to click on the console cable, PC. Now you could use USB. If you use USB, guys, you have to make sure that you have the correct USB driver on your computer that will work with your console cable. So you click on RS-232 and then you click on console. Then we're going to go to the next one, RS-232 console. Now if you see, I not use a console cable here. So I can't console into it right now. I have to use a console cable. So I'm going to go back and delete this cable. All right. And I'm going to go add the console cable. So you have to make sure you use the correct cable. If you don't use the correct cable, you will not be able to connect the way I'm connecting. So the first thing we want to do is go to the PC. So normally in the real world, we use PuTTY. PuTTY is a terminal emulation software, or we used to use back in the days hyperterminal. Most folks now use PuTTY. All right. So we're going to go to desktop, terminal, and I'll just select OK here. I explained this in console video that I put out there. I explained all of this before. So you watch the console using a console cable. So now we're on the router right now. Okay. So if we pull this over, I'm just going to expand it so you can see what I'm doing here. I hit enter. It's going to put you in your initial configuration dialog mode, or we call it setup mode. You do not want to use the wizard. So you're going to type no. So now when we type no, we hit enter. So now we're in user mode. This is user mode. So that greater than sign that you see there, that's known as user mode. Okay. So when you're in user mode, you could only do limited commands. And if you hit the question mark, I'll show you only the commands you could use in this mode. So these are the only commands you can use in this mode. So this is very limited. Okay. So now to get from user mode to privilege mode, we type EN. EN is the short for enable. So here people talk about enable mode or privilege mode. Enable or privilege mode. So the next thing we hit EN, and now you're in privilege mode. To go back, you type disable. This is to go from privilege mode back to user mode. So I'm going to type EN and I'm going to hit the tab key. Remember, the tab key completes a command. So hit the tab key, completes the command. Back in enable mode. Now we want to go to global configuration mode, or what's known as config. All right. So when you see the word config, you'll see what I'm talking about in a minute. You know that you're in global configuration mode. So we're going to type config. All right. The word is configure. So it's configure. I'm going to hit the tab key and I'm going to hit type T. So you see it's going to complete the command, config terminal. So the complete command is configure terminal. The short command is config T. So I'll hit enter. So this shows me now I'm in what's called as config mode, or what we normally call global configuration mode. So I'm going to exit and go back and show you how I use the abbreviated commands now. Exit, I hit enter again, and I'll type config T. So now you see I'm config T. So config T means now I'm what? I'm in global configuration mode. So config T is the short for what? Configure terminal. Now from here, I can get to any other mode basically that I want to get to. So the first mode we're going to talk about is line mode. So your line modes are the different ways in which you could connect to the device. So you could connect to the router or the switch. So I'm going to type line, and I like to use the question mark. So question mark in Cisco, I say it's your best friend. So if you want, if a command is there, you hit the question mark. So we're going to hit question mark. So now you see I have a line. I could go from 2, which is the first line number, to 499. You have aux. Aux is for modems. You have console. This is your direct cable, that console blue cable. That's my console port. That's if I want to give it a password or anything like that. You have TTY, you have VTY, you have X, Y, and Z, which is for slot numbers and port for modems. So these are the commands I could use with line mode. So how do you know if you're in a line mode? How do you know? It's very simple. I'm going to use console for now. So I type console, all right? And if I hit the question mark, I could only use one port. So when you see 0 to 0, that means I could only use one. So I'll put 0 and I hit enter. Now, if you see, the line now changed to what? Config dash line. So if you see now you have line dash line. Here you have config. See? Config, privilege mode, which is with the pound sign, user mode, no pound sign. So I'm just showing you the difference. So this is line configuration mode. And if you want to go into any other line mode, you just do it from here. Line aux 0. So it's not going to tell you that it's in aux mode, or it's in console mode, or it's in VTY mode or TTY. It's not going to tell you any of that stuff. You have to, based on the command that you type, it's going to determine which mode you're using, right? Whether it's console or which port you're accessing, which is console, which is aux, which is VTY. It's based on the command that you type. So later we do passwords, you'll see what I'm talking about. So I'm going to type exit. And now we're going to go to router configuration mode. So router configuration mode is where you configure your routing protocols. So all you do now, you type router and you hit question mark. So these are the different routing protocols I could configure. Now you're going to see when you get to router configuration mode, you're going to see it says config dash router. So we're going to type router space rip. So we're just using rip as an example. All right. So when I hit rip, you see changes now to config dash router. That means I'm in router configuration mode. So now I'm in router configuration mode. I could type the commands I want. If you don't know what commands to use, again, use question mark. And this is going to show you the commands that you can use. So this is the same on any Cisco device. Question mark, like I said, is your best friend. So we're going to type exit. Exit takes me back 1. So the next mode we're going to go to is interface configuration mode. So interface configuration mode is the mode we go to configure our interfaces. All right. And when we do the show commands, which is a video on show commands and how you use show commands, it's a video on interfaces. All right. There's all those different videos I set up for you so you can work with. So the next mode that we're going to work with now is interface configuration mode. So we type INT, which is short for interface, or I hit the tab key. Tab key completes the command. So interface, I hit question mark. So these are all the different interfaces I can work with. Here's the challenge with interface. If you do not know which interface that you're using, let's say you're just coming a router, all right? There's the show IP interface brief command, which we'll talk about later on. So now I'm going to use G0/0. G represents gigabits. If I backspace here and I hit the tab key, you see it says gigabit, which is gigabit that you have here. So that shows me gigabit. All right. So I'm going to put 0/0. Okay. Now, when we talk about the hardware of a router, which is a separate video, I'll explain all of that. So now you're what's called interface configuration mode. So it says config-if. That means you're in interface configuration mode. I'm going to show you another interesting thing. I'm going to go type X and I'll show you sub-interface mode. So I hit the up arrow key. The up arrow key brings up and down arrow key brings command back and forth. So it keeps all the commands that you have in history. So I hit the up arrow key and I hit it again. Now I'm going to put that one. So this is using something called sub-interface. So when you hear people talk about a sub-interface, you actually using the interface and you add in a number at the end of it with a dot. So the dot is going to signify you're using sub-interface 1, which you'll see off of G00. So hit enter. Now if you see it says here config-sub-if. So that means that you're using a sub interface. Now I'm going to go all the way back out and I'm going to type end. End takes you right back to privilege mode. It's either end or control Z. Any one of the two of them you could use. Hit enter and hit enter again. Now I'm just show you just quickly. So you just learn about your user mode, your privilege mode, your global configuration mode, your line configuration mode, your interface configuration mode, and your router configuration mode. So those are the modes that I wanted you to learn about in this exercise for a router. Now we're going to take a quick switch over to a switch. Okay, so I'm going to close this out and we're going to go switch now. So I click on PC3, same thing, desktop, terminal, and I click on OK. Now I'm on the switch. Now, because depending on the type of switch you're using, if it's a multi-layer switch, it's going to come up in an initial setup dialog. This is not a multi-layer switch, so you just hit enter. And now we're in user mode. To get from user mode to privilege mode, you can type EN. Now I'm in privilege mode. To get to privilege mode to global configuration mode, I'll type config T or configure terminal. Remember, same thing on a router, same thing on a switch. Hit enter. Now we're in global configuration mode. Now, if I want to talk about an interface, all right, so I'm going to type interface and I'll do question mark. So these are the interfaces now I can use. Now, the good thing about it is switches, it's much easier to work with interfaces on a switch than it is to work on a router because the main interface on a switch is VLAN 1. VLAN 1 is what you configure the IPs on. So I'm going to use VLAN 1 for now. If you want to add ports or you want to do stuff with the individual ports on the switch itself, then you have to specify the individual interface like fast Ethernet or gigabit or port channel. If you decide to do each channel, you try to bind your ports to bond the ports together. Or if you want to use a range of interfaces to add to VLAN, you use the interface range command. So now I'm just going to use VLAN. And I'm going to do 1. So VLAN 1 is the default VLAN. Again, config.if. So that means that I'm in interface configuration mode. Same you do on a router, same you do on a switch. And if I open up back my router here real quick, I'm just going to jump over here real quick, guys, just to show you. All right. And I would bring this down here and make sure I have both of them up. That's 1. That's 2. So you're seeing both of them side by side here. And if I scroll down, I'm just showing you. All right. Config-if. Config-if. Both of them represent the interface configuration command. So all I'm saying to you guys is this is how you work with it. So now we're going to type exit. And the next one I want to tell you is VLAN configuration mode. So when you go to create a VLAN, you type VLAN. And if you hit the question mark, it's going to say, hey, you could use any number from 1 to 4094. All right. Now, there's some VLAN numbers that you cannot use. They're reserved. So I'm going to just put VLAN 10. So this just created VLAN 10. So in this mode, if I hit the question mark, I could give it a name. I could say no. I could do remote span. I could do exit, right? Exit takes you back 1. So this is VLAN config mode right here. Now, I'm going to type exit. Now, one of the things is, so we talk about VLAN. So these are the different modes that you have on a switch. All right. You have interface, VLAN database mode. I could show you another way to get to VLAN database, but nobody uses this no more. If you type VLAN question mark, it says unrecognized command. So normally we say VLAN database. All right. So VLAN database. So on the newer switches, they remove it. On the older switches, this is how you normally used to get to VLAN. So that's it, guys. That's understanding. And let me just backspace out of here. And I'll click on end. Now, if you see it says translation domain, that means the command is not working. Shift, Control, and 6 breaks you out of that. Shift, Control, 6. Shift, Control, 6X. Aborts anything they're doing. All right. So I'm going to type exit. Again, if you don't know the commands to type, question mark, and here are all the commands. There's a separate video on how you get all of this stuff to work. Okay, guys? Um, I'm just going through it with you so you understand what's going on. So I'm going to type exit and bang, I'm out of the router. If I out of the switch, if I hit enter, I'm back in. And that's it, guys. That's a quick rundown of understanding your modes on a switch and on a router. So if you have any questions, please send me an email or post something in the chat. Thank you.